Okay, this is One World Observatory in One World Trade Center. In yet another milestone at the World Trade Center site, the observatory at One World Trade Center opened to the public last Friday. This is May 29th, 2015. Known as One World Observatory, the attraction reinstates views lost due to the tragic events of September 11th. Almost 14 years later, the public can once again view the city from its highest point. You could do a whole video on everything that was built into this new structure and what that means in more esoteric metaphysical terms, but I want to focus on just one particular aspect of this. Here you can see the entrance to the observatory. But what I want to focus on primarily is the City Pulse orientation experience, which is referred to as a quote-unquote Stargate. And I'll take you back to the beginning here to get a better view. These are actually in the observatory. I believe there are two of them. And it's a Stargate made up of screens. Okay, so it doesn't get much more obvious than that. I mean, I rest my case, right? Like, they put a bunch of screens in the shape of a ring and called it a Stargate and put it in the One World Trade Center in this observatory. And I'll just play a little bit of this so you can see what I mean. They constructed the technology in a way where the tour guide can stand in the Stargate and have the movements mirrored by the screen. So it looks like it's controlling the Stargates. And when you go to a description of the device, they say this. There's another benefit too. The rings are what local projects principal Jake Barton calls human-computer storytelling hybrids. Human-computer hybrids and the Stargate. Okay, so it's the whole thing right there. That's what this ritual is. On one level, that's what 9/11 was. It was about this human-computer hybrid creation, where the eyes fuse with the screen, which is why this Stargate in One World Trade Center is made up of 10 screens, the 1 and 0 of binary code. That is this new language of this new technology. And we are learning this language and fusing with it. In the terms of a Stargate or a portal into another dimension or trading places, that dimension is coming into our world and into our minds as we go into its dimension and its mind. And there is this eventual singularity, quote unquote, this fusion with that mind that exists within the digital realm where we fuse with artificial intelligence. A human-computer hybrid. This is why they put the screen in the form of the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey right here, where this building now stands. It was the Overlook Hotel. It presided over the collapse of those two towers, the controlled demolition. And this tower rose in its place. And they put a Stargate made of screens in the observatory. And the timing of everything is very interesting because they opened this to the public on May 29th, 2015, which was just about 2 weeks before Donald Trump officially announced his run for the presidency the first time. Very interesting that they waited 14 years to open this to the public right as Donald Trump is about to begin the public version of the ritual that they seeded into his character as the Moonchild, who is the personification of this event, infusing his character with all of this programming relating to the controlled demolition of the United States empire, the controlled demolition of the old world order, so that something new like this tower will ultimately be built in its ashes once the Moonchild passes, the so-called Great American Eclipse. So this opens on May 29th, 2015, 14 years after 9/11, and it takes exactly 47 seconds for the SkyPod elevators to transport visitors to the 102nd floor of the One World Observatory, which is the entrance, and then you can take stairs down to the 101 and the 100th floor. And the 100th floor is where this City Pulse Stargate is. But it takes 47 seconds exactly to go in the SkyPod, to go on the Odyssey, reach the observatory, and find yourself in front of the Stargate, the portal into the human-computer hybrid fusion. The human-computer hybrid. The screens construct a Stargate, a portal into another dimension. Hopefully it's really making sense now. They couldn't be more obvious. They've really put it all right here for you to understand what they're actually doing and what this whole ritual is primarily about. All the other stuff is kind of just noise leading us in this direction. And indeed, the noise further and further sucks you in to the devices. And it's this idea of the event horizon, the black hole singularity, that eventually you reach a certain point where the gravity has you and you can't escape it. And it pulls you in. The black holes on your face, that is, right? Those portals into that dimension. That's probably why there's two of these here. It's the two eyes fusing with the screens. The human-computer hybrid. It takes 47 seconds to get here. Obviously referring to Donald Trump, the 47th president, and one of the first things they did for the 47th presidential term, the announcement of Project Stargate, which is an AI initiative. It's the whole thing right there. And this opens for the first time on May 29th, 2015, just a couple weeks before the formal announcement Donald Trump made, where he goes down that escalator, the currency exchange, where there's a sign that, coincidentally, let's say, I don't know, but there's a sign that falls. It's a falling tower as he's going down the escalator, the currency exchange. Trading places. That's another way to view that now, too. This Stargate is opened 2 weeks before the whole ritual commences, where Donald Trump officially announces he's running for president. Almost as if the opening of this observatory and what they put in it was some kind of coronation ritual for what they had planned to do through the character Donald Trump is playing and everything they've infused into him. Fascinating stuff. Maybe I'm making this all up. I don't know. Seems pretty clear, though. 47 seconds exactly to get up to the observatory, where they have a Stargate made of screens. And it's a human-computer hybrid Stargate that is a fusion of humans with the machine. Project Stargate. There it is, in an image. That's Project Stargate. Right? It's not a government AI initiative to invest in these companies. No, this is what Project Stargate is. And that's why they announced it right as he was inaugurated as the 47th president. Of course, knowing back in 2015 that this was all going to take place, they encode it into this whole observatory experience. Speaking of the Moonchild, I wanted to attach one thing to the end of this video that relates to Leave the World Behind and Jack Parsons. This is the character Rose, who spends a lot of the film in this NASA t-shirt. And for those of you who don't know, Jack Parsons was a pioneering American rocket engineer and co-founder of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory and Aerojet, crucial to early U.S. rocketry. An enigmatic figure, he bridged the worlds of science and occultism, collaborating with Aleister Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard before dying in a mysterious home laboratory explosion in Pasadena, California. Obviously, Pasadena is known as the City of Roses. JPL was the precursor to NASA. So you have this association between Jack Parsons, roses, and NASA. Or rose in a NASA t-shirt and leave the world behind. And Jack Parsons was born on October 2nd, 1914, October 2nd being the same day that the plot of Donnie Darko begins. And Rose is referred to by another character as staring out into the woods like Donnie Darko, right before they show the scene of the lunar eclipse with the colorless American flag, referring to the moonchild Donald Trump and the Great American Eclipse, the controlled demolition of the United States. And they portray the fall of the country in this film via a cyber attack. And this seems like a clear reference to the moonchild via Jack Parsons, because there is a letter that Crowley sent to another occultist that he was interacting with, throwing a lot of shade on Jack Parsons and Hubbard because they were trying to do this moonchild ritual. Meaning it's Jack Parsons, JPL, NASA, Rose, Pasadena, and the moonchild. It was just another way to subconsciously infuse the idea that this film is all about the Donald Trump moonchild ritual and the controlled demolition of the United States. Which they show you clearly at the end of the film when Rose presses play on the last one, the final episode of Friends, which aired right next to a total lunar eclipse blood moon. And that, of course, is when Donald Trump was born, under a total lunar eclipse blood moon. So Rose presses play on that propaganda. You see, she presses play on the moonchild ritual. And she presses play in the Thorns bunker. Roses and thorns, right? So it's going back to Pasadena, where Jack Parsons died at 37. His first name is Marvel, by the way. He later changed it to Jack, which probably ties in all those Marvel films and how those are infusing the same subconscious propaganda into our minds. Well, I guess it would go all the way back to the comics, right? I mean, indeed it does. When you look at who started the comic book industry, and it's all familiar faces that are involved in the same power structure. But anyways, Rose in the Thorn bunker presses play on the last episode of Friends. She presses play on the Moonchild ritual. That is the controlled demolition of the United States via the Moonchild, Donald Trump. And ultimately, the climax of the ritual is this escape velocity singularity, where the gravity of the whole thing reaches a point where you cannot escape. You're too enmeshed within it. And that is the 47 seconds that it takes to go into the skypods, to go on the Odyssey up to the observatory and see the Stargate, the human-computer hybrid, the fusion. The eyes merge into the screen and cannot escape at a certain point. It cannot escape at the singularity event, where whatever is being built through this technology merges with human consciousness in a way that it cannot be separated. This is the singularity, right? That's what they're referring to. And that's the subliminal imprint with obey NASA. It's obey our subconscious ritual. That's what they're showing you in that scene. And a part of this is Rose, Donnie Darko, October 2nd, Jack Parsons, NASA, Thorn, Friends, Donald Trump, total lunar eclipse, blood moon. Jack Parsons dies in Pasadena. Rose. NASA. Obey NASA. She finds the Thorn bunker. Thorns and roses. The city pulse is even giving you that imagery in your mind where it's this artificial creation, a city with a pulse or a human heartbeat. Okay, so the city pulse, Stargate. Human-computer hybrid. It responds to everything that the human being is doing. And this is you looking at it unaware of what's really going on. You're just sucked into it as the ritual unfolds. Anyways, I thought that was interesting, but that's enough for now. Later.